Everyone, welcome to the show. So I'm sure by now you guys have all seen the news about the jobs market, but we are now seeing the fallout of Donald Trump's incompetence. That's what it boils down to, and I have some details to share about some of his own supporters, some of his allies turning on him over this issue, or at least calling him out and saying, this is really bad. So before I get into all these details, please do me a huge favor, hit the subscribe button below this video. It is free for you. It really helps the show. So appreciate that. And thank you so much to everyone who donates to the show every month. You really help to keep things going. So here's what's going down. Here's the deal. Everything economists have been warning about is now happening. And it's showing Trump's decisions are just horrible for the country. They are destroying the economy. They're destroying the job market. But instead of dealing with reality, Trump is choosing to shoot the messenger. So you may have heard that too, but here's what all happened if you hadn't heard this story. So the jobs report that was released last Friday, and it showed that a pathetic 73,000 jobs were added in July. So analysts were predicting that approximately 110,000 jobs were going to be added to the job market. It still would have been low. It still would have shown a constriction in the labor market. But 73,000 is just, it's horrendous. I mean, it is an abysmal showing. And here's the thing, the news got even worse for the Trump administration. And again, here's the 73,000 being reported. This was reported by Market Watch news outlet. Well, on top of this, the Department of Labor revised the figures for the previous 2 months. So they revised the figures for May and June, and it is jaw-dropping. So check this one out. This is the labor market over the last year. So as you can see, it just fell off a cliff. The jobs market just dropped off dramatically in May and June, according to this new data that was gathered by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So previously it was reported that 125,000 jobs were added in May. They now say it was only 19,000. And 147,000 had been reported for the month of June. That has now been revised down to only 14,000 jobs. So this is monumental news. And check this out. Unemployment increased slightly to 4.2%. And Forbes reported, quote, Friday's data follows a report earlier this week from the career services firm Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. They noted that private and public employers cut 62,000 jobs in July, marking a 140% spike over July 2024. So think about that. We added almost the same number of jobs that were cut, right? 73,000. And we'll wait to see, because of course those numbers are going to be revised as well, right? There's always revisions. So they make their best guess initially on the data that they have, and then they compile information from employers, and then they get to the real figures. So it's, my understanding, and from what I'm going to play for you in a clip, it's revised twice. And so that 73,000 that they say that were added in July may not even be 73,000. And now we're finding out that, 62,000 were cut. So Trump immediately announced he's, changing direction. He's going to get the economy back on track. Just kidding. Instead, as you may have heard, he had a complete meltdown over on his failing social media site, Liar Social. He announced the firing of the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, which was Dr. Erica McEntafar. I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, but anyway, he fired her. So announced it first online and then actually had her fired. He accused her of manipulating the data, politicizing the jobs report, um, trying to make him look bad. It's such bullshit. And even some of his allies are like, oh, yeah, this is not good. This jobs report is bad. They know that this is because of Donald Trump's policies. So, Stephen Moore is an economics fellow at the Heritage Foundation. That is the uber conservative group that chose some of Trump's Supreme Court judges. Well, Moore told Fox Business that this disaster is because of Trump's tariff policies and how he keeps doing the taco. So I don't think I have an element on this, but anyway, Moore said, quote, I talked to small businesses all over the country. A lot of their businesses came to a standstill. They didn't know if they could get their parts in. They didn't know what was going on. And then senior CNBC economics reporter Steve Leisman, he slammed Trump for firing the labor statistics commissioner. So take a listen to what he had to say.
Most outrageous charge of politicization that I can remember. There is no context in which these numbers have been revised in a political context. These numbers are revised routinely, and I think you're concerned that all of a sudden these numbers over time will become unreliable. You're right. They're unreliable on a one-month basis for a whole series of reasons. And all of these revisions the president is talking about are situations where the agency is doing what it should do. It's telling the truth about what it knows about the data once it gets more data. They're revised 1 month, they're revised a second time, and then they're revised once a year. And all of these revisions he's talking about are the results of truing up the estimates to the actual data. There's no sense, no chart at all, no statistical at all evidence that these are politicized.
So that's notable because CNBC and this reporter are typically pretty Trump friendly. You know, they're not Trump propagandists like Fear News Network or Newsmax and all those other similar networks, but CNBC deals in facts and figures and they have to be reliable for investors. So, you know, they've been willing to cut Trump some slack in their hope that he is going to be good for the economy, but they'll tell the truth when he makes a mistake. And clearly they're not happy about this. And here's the thing, and what he was alluding to is no one now can ever trust the jobs report, right? Like we won't be able to trust any report coming out of the Trump administration from now on, because now everyone responsible for reports, for information that we need to rely on as American citizens, we now know, oh, okay, well, this could be legitimate, or it could be compiled by someone who's afraid that they're going to get fired as well, right? Unless they make it look like Donald Trump is doing this great job, he might fire them too. So we don't know if this is legit or if this person just said this out of fear. So this further erodes the trust in our country. It weakens the labor market even more, you know, because whether you're a small business owner or you own a large corporation, you have no way of knowing what's really going on with the U.S. economy. You don't know if it's safe to make investments in your business or to hire more people. And on Sunday, Moody's Analytics chief economist, Mark Zandi, he posted a bunch of things on Twitter, but here's one of them, or two of them, excuse me, or actually, let me show you this one first. So he said first, quote, "The economy is on the precipice of recession. That's the clear takeaway from last week's economic data dump. Consumer spending has flatlined, construction and manufacturing are contracting, and employment is set to fall. And with inflation on the rise, it's tough for the Fed to come to the rescue." And that is the most ironic part of what Trump is doing here, because Trump is saying, well, I want the Fed to lower the interest rates. They need to lower the interest rates. Jerome Powell is too late. Jerome Powell, he should have done it already. Well, you can't say the economy is doing great and then the Fed is supposed to lower the interest rates. The Fed lowers the interest rates when the economy is flailing. So if Donald Trump would just tell the truth, if he would allow these jobs reports to stand and show where things really are, maybe he would get what he wants and they would lower the interest rates, or I can almost guarantee it. And then Mark Zandi explained his reasons, or what he thinks the reasons are for why this is all happening. So I'll show you these. He said, quote, unemployment remains low, but that's only because labor force growth has gone sideways. The foreign-born workforce is shrinking and labor force participation is declining. Telling is the economy-wide hiring freeze, particularly for recent graduates, and the decline in hours worked. And then he added, it's no mystery why the economy is struggling. Blame increasing U.S. tariffs and highly restrictive immigration policy. The tariffs are cutting increasingly deeply into the profits of American companies and the purchasing power of American households. Fewer immigrant workers means a smaller economy. So, yeah, what he's saying is, in a nutshell, American companies are not hiring. They're freezing hiring. They're afraid to make any moves. They're afraid to hire. They're afraid to expand. And then on top of that, you have, immigrants being taken out of the workforce. So companies now are shrinking because of that, because they don't have the labor that they had before, and they can't hire American workers, sadly, for the same amount. Not sadly for the companies, but like sadly for the American workers, they're not offering enough. And Americans don't want to do a lot of the jobs that the immigrant labor force was doing. We've seen that. We've heard that from farmers across the board. But then on top of that, you have high tariffs, which is pushing up inflation. It's causing prices to surge. So people are cutting back. We're seeing that in travel. We're seeing that in large dollar expenditures. Everything is stagnating. And so we are basically in, I disagree with him on the recession. I think we are in a period of stagflation. And yes, that does lead to a recession. You have high costs, you have high inflation, and then the job market stalls or shrinks and people aren't spending. So it's the worst of all worlds. This is exactly what Donald Trump did with all of his businesses, and why he has failed at every turn, and why he has had to, file for bankruptcy so many times and been bailed out and taken other people's money and run with it. It's that simple. But the MAGA cope in this guy's, in Zandi's comment section was hysterical. If they bothered to step out of their Fear News Network bubble, they would know that, yes, the economy is flailing. And yes, independents and swing voters are not happy. They think that Trump is failing. They think that he is failing to address their economic concerns. And Trump and the Republicans are in trouble. And here's how we know that they know they're in trouble. We know this because if they didn't realize that the winds were blowing against them, right? If they didn't realize that they were completely failing and that they were going to be in trouble in the midterms, they wouldn't be trying to gerrymander Texas. They wouldn't be trying to gerrymander one of the reddest states in the country. So there you go. That's where we are. I will have more for you on the economy. I have more information about travel and how that's tanking, and even domestically how the travel industry is in trouble right now. I have a very interesting video to share with you on that. So stay tuned for that later in the week. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.